The meeting to order. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Edna and Rachel? I didn't see if your hand was up. All in favor?
Aye.
He's trying to keep from falling over, but they were.
Opposed? Motion carried. Who wants to go first? I guess it won't be Paul.
Sure.
Okay, why don't we do that, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay. The first item on my agenda is a resolution request to accept AWPR for services of pharmacy network vendor for the workers' compensation plan. Our current contract expires September 30th. We did have an option for an extension, however, I did put out a proposal and we received the lowest proposal from AWPR. I think this is going to save us over our current vendor. It's a 3-year contract with an option for an additional 3 years, and the whole contract, or the whole proposal, was sent to you on email. It's available on the county website.
Okay, we have a motion by Evelyn, a second by Peter. Discussion? Evan?
Is that their name, AWPR?
It is.
How do you say that?
AWPR.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 2 is a resolution request to accept the proposal from OCM IPA. It's not a kind of beer. For the services of diagnostic radiology vendor for the workers' compensation plan. This is the incumbent. They used to be known as One Call Medical. They did give us the lowest proposal for the basic MRI, which are the majority of the tests that we pay for. We've had this vendor for 6 years and they've done well by us. This is a 3-year contract with an option for an additional 3 years.
Okay, can I get a motion?
All right.
Bud? Edna? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item number 3 is a resolution request to allow the participants in the self-insurance plan to utilize the county's safety data sheet database. This is a database that our information technology department developed with our help in my office. It's web-based. It just stores pictures of safety data sheets. Every municipality is required to keep them. Most of them have voluminous binders of them. This gives them an electronic feature. Specifically, the city of Glens Falls asked for this, but I think it's a great option for all municipalities. It would be by their election only, by some sort of memorandum of understanding provided by the county attorney. The director of IT, the county attorney, everyone is agreeable to this as of I. So I'm asking for a resolution just to approve that. It would be no cost to the county, no cost to the participants.
Motion by Evelyn, second by Edna. I have a question. Does the electronic storage do away with the hard copy storage?
It does if your employees have access to a computer.
Okay.
So any time they have access to a computer, you can do away with the paper copies and just use the electronic copies.
That's remarkable because it doesn't usually work that way. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Number 4 is a resolution request to allow the town of Queensbury employees to participate in the safety training classes that are offered through the self-insurance department. The town of Queensbury is not a participant in the workers' comp plan. However, they have requested to attend our safety classes. I spoke with the county administrator who asked me to determine an approximate cost, and I proposed $20 a person for a 4-hour or less program and $40 for 4 hours or more. That's just covering an approximate cost of the trainer fee that's in our contract with Mike Needham. I would only charge a fee to the Queensberry employees when there was a fee charged to us. So like Mike Needham, we pay because we have a safety contract. Some other trainers come to me for free, so I wouldn't charge the town for that. They could only come when our classes were not full, but they're interested in attending, and I think it's a nice thing to do for a town in our county.
Is that a motion, Peter?
Yes, it is.
Can I get a second? Rachel? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion also carries.
Item number 5 is a resolution request approving a Warren County volunteer policy and procedure. As you know, several of our departments utilize volunteers. Some of them have come to me and asked questions about what do I do if, how do I do that, and we discovered that we probably should have this memorialized somewhere in a policy and procedure. So I worked with many departments, as well as our safety committees, our county insurance broker, county attorney, the county administrator, to give you the policy that is attached to your agenda. So I'm asking that you approve that, or I can answer your questions, whatever you need to do.
Motion by Bud. Second by Rachel.
I just have a brief question. Amy, the other day when we were talking, I believe it was Office for the Aging, and she was talking about volunteers on a meal site. We had a brief conversation about agencies in the community that work with volunteers, and I don't know if it would be useful to you, but Directors of Volunteers and Agencies, DOVIA, is something in Warren County. Well, it covers Warren, Washington, I think some of Saratoga. They used to meet out of United Way, but it might be a good resource if you're looking for some of those broad volunteer, not only opportunities, but examples of, you know, different procedures and protocols and whatnot. I'd forgotten what the agency was, so. Anyway.
Thank you.
Bud?
This has nothing to do with the resolution, but I'm just curious, where are most of the volunteers? I know there's a lot for tourism.
Tourism, Office for the Aging, Health Services has volunteers. I believe Emergency Services has some that they utilize during emergency situations.
We're talking 50, 100 people?
I think we're talking well over that. County Administrator may have a better handle. Office for the Aging has a lot of volunteers. Just your Meals on Wheels program is all volunteers, and that program presents a lot of questions. That actually, it was Office for the Aging that started this discussion. You know, what do I do if the volunteer gets hurt? What do I do if the volunteer slides off the road in their own car? How do I know? Right now, we don't even have a way to say, you have to give us your license if you're going to drive for Meals on Wheels. So this just clarifies some of those questions. But there's a lot more volunteers, I think, out there than we all realize, than I realized. But I don't know numbers at all.
But I do think the Meals on Wheels there's
the
a
largest.
lot. I don't, here again, I don't know the numbers, but there's a lot of volunteers there.
I know Emergency Services has a list that they can utilize in the event of a disaster as well, that aren't our typical fire and EMS volunteers. Public Health does use some volunteers for some of their things.
We require them to carry a certain amount of insurance?
We do not. We did not go that far in this policy.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That also carries.
To the referral and pending, both of those will remain pending. They're both with the county administrator, and we'll get back to you on those. Onto information and discussion for review. The 2016 Workers' Comp Plan participant assessments. As you know, every year I come to you to discuss the participant assessments. I did meet with the budget team a couple of days ago for the county, who approved the total budget for the self-insurance plan of $1,396,245. That is down approximately 9% from 2015, which is about $141,000. And about $95,000 of that is county, so that'll help hopefully going forward in your other departments' budgets. I did attach the allocation as it stands amongst the various, participants. As you recall, probably last year, we did revise the formula, we did a lot of work on that. So this is the first year of the new formula, beyond the original year. And I think it is working as we expected. I think it's working well. I hope we'll see it continue to work well. I can answer any questions on those, any particular claims questions and whatnot. You can always reach me at my office. Are there any questions?
Okay, I guess you're done.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I was unable,
What we did on the local law authorizing the public hearing, you want me to take that up?
sure. Well, you're talking about the,
Yes.
okay, I was unable to open that, make that website work through any of the email links. I didn't type it directly in, so they were both, what was on the website and what was emailed to me were PDFs. Not for me.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you have hard copies of this available
Well,
or will have.
this is it.
Okay, well, I'm just as well satisfied that I didn't open it up and try and print it.
Oh, you wouldn't wanna try to print that.
Yeah. Sarah, do we have extra copies of this?
We do, but they're not ready. I mean, I didn't want to
Okay.
distribute till they
Right.
ready.
All right, well,
Let's see,
go right ahead.
let's see how far we get with this. Mr. Chairman, committee members, item number 3 on your agenda, request for resolution introducing a local law and authorizing a public hearing for the adoption of the Warren County, New York plans and policies and municipal code. We have a contract with American Legal Publishing Corporation. We've been working with them. They are responsible for combining our policies and our local laws into one municipal code. By way of example, I know the town of Queensbury has a municipal code book, the city of Glens Falls has a municipal code book. Many municipalities that I worked for back in my private practice days have a municipal code book that is a desk reference that you can keep right on your desk, and when you have a question about a local law or a policy, you go to the index, you call it up on the index, and it's right there before you. So this is what we've tried to accomplish and what we have accomplished for Warren County. It's been a long-standing item, and I think American Legal Publishing has done a very nice job. This is essentially it. Everybody's going to get a copy that's going to look like this. It's very professional looking. It's very well done. It's very well organized. It's easy to use. There's an index. So, for example, if you were at home or in your office and you wanted to see what the current occupancy tax law looks like, you could go to the index and you could go to O. It's all in alphabetical order, O. And you could say, oh, there it is, occupancy tax. I go to section 35.001, and voila, there it is, the occupancy tax law. If I want to know what our purchasing policy is, I go to the index. Under P, I find purchasing policy. I open it up, voila, there's our current purchasing policy. So this is really a neat way to put everything together, ease of use, not only for our supervisors, our department heads, our employees, but also the public, because this will be available on our website. So, what is also in here is, and I've handed out, is a new set of FOIL rules and regulations. Section 87 of the Public Officers Law requires a county, and all municipalities for that matter, to have rules and regulations with respect to FOIL requests. We've had one, it's long-standing. Paul and I decided it needed to be updated, so we've updated it. That's what's before you. That needs to be adopted as part of this process. You haven't adopted those rules and regulations for the Freedom of Information Law. So, as part of this process, Section 20 of the Municipal Home Rule Law says If you as the county are going to do a recodification, a codification, a compilation of a variety of subject matters, of local laws and policies, you can put all that together in one booklet, in one compilation, have a public hearing on it. If there's revisions, changes, etc., note those for the record, but all of those become part of one local law. Why is that important? Because that's really the only exception in the public officers law for this type of work. Otherwise, a local law is supposed to comprise or address one subject matter and one subject matter only. Here, we are addressing multiple subject matters in one local law. Why? Because the Public Officers Law, Section 20, says we can do that if we're putting together a compilation or a codification. So that's therefore the request for the local law and the public hearing, as we ordinarily do for any local law. Couple of other things I wanted to point out about this. This is always going to be a work in progress, folks. There are always going to be updates that are needed. Two examples come to mind. Number one, since the publisher has put this together, we've updated our local law with respect to HR and personnel through local law number 5 of 2015. So when you get a copy of this, you're going to go to section 32.030, Human Resources and Civil Service Administration Department. That's going to be the old local law. That's going to be the local law that we adopted in 2014, which had the two departments essentially under the management and guidance of the Human Resource Director. We've since separated those through local law number 5 of 2015. They're housed in the same suite of offices, but they're separate departments working in collaboration. So this local law, because it was recently adopted, does not find its way into this code as the publisher put together. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a notation. We're going to put a sheet of paper, probably a blue sheet of paper. I'll work with Amanda on that, that says that this particular provision of the code has been superseded by this local law, which can be found on the county's website. Okay? So the hard covers are not going to be exactly totally updated. They will be updated as we go along through the months and years. Same thing with the occupancy tax law. Just this past month, we adopted a new occupancy tax law to address remarketers, to bring those within the scope of the occupancy tax parameters. Our codification does not include that. It includes the old occupancy tax law, which was last amended in 2011. So we're going to do the same thing there. I'll work with Amanda to make sure that there is a sheet of paper that refers the reader to the updated local law. This is just a little sort of bump along the way that we have to deal with, not unusual, not uncustomary, but or atypical, but the lion's share of this body of work is current, is updated, and is before you for your consideration. So this has been an enormous undertaking. Joan and Amanda have done the lion's share of work here locally at the county. Paul and I have been involved naturally, as we would be. Shelley from my office has been involved, and any number of other employees at the county have been involved in putting this together. But I think it's ready to go. So I think the next step is for you to, after we've addressed any questions or concerns, I think the next step is for us to schedule a public hearing for the September meeting, and you would be doing a resolution today to introduce this for a resolution for the August meeting to introduce this for a public hearing at your September meeting.
Can I get such a resolution, Bud?
I'd make the resolution, and also just like to comment, you know, I served 8 years in the city as a councilman. You mentioned the city has a code book, and I think Jim will agree with me.
Yeah, we're gonna
It's
ask the
something
same.
that you live by when you have one. You're constantly going through it, referring to it. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, motion by Bud and second by Peter. What's that?
Yes, second, I think, yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment also, and
Okay.
maybe just echo what Bud said. First of all, thank you. I mean, this is, in terms of, the ability to easily and quickly get through a maze of information,
One thing I should point out, Mr. Chairman, to Supervisor McDevitt's point and the points of the other supervisors, one of the great things about this, as you know, we adopt hundreds of resolutions every year. And the call that I get from Paul that brings the most fear into me, which is daily, by the way, is, Martin, there's a resolution out there. I remember when I was county attorney, I think it addressed the following. I'm pretty sure it did. Now I have a source that I can go to, and I can say, you know, Paul, you're right. It's resolution such and such, because there is an index of resolutions by topic and by word, which is an extraordinarily great asset for us. So rather than me going to Shelley and Terry and saying, hi ladies, I need, and they're like, oh my, right, where are we going to find this? Now we have something that we can point to directly, and it's really going to save us a lot of time.
Jim?
Are we gonna each get one of those books, or?
My understanding is that you are.
Well,
No?
there was when we first started this process about a year ago, I think it was, there seemed to be a mixed feeling on the board as far as whether everybody would get copies or not. I mean, we just have to pay for them. Right now, we have 25, I believe, is that correct, Sam? Yes, and the 25 that we had were primarily thought to be for department heads. There is a CD, it will be also on the web, so the question is do you also want a book? If you want a book in addition to what's on the web, we can certainly provide them, that's not a problem. But that was, just so you know, the board did have, or this committee at one point did have a discussion about a year ago, and the feeling that I got from that discussion was not everybody wanted a book. But we can do it, though, it's not a problem.
The reason I brought it up was, we had a book that was about this thick, that you pull this metal thing out, and then they give you instructions on where to put the new amendments and all that. And what ended up happening is, you were constantly changing it, and the book I got needed to be updated anyway, whoever had it last didn't do it all. And after a while, I just said, I gave it back to the city clerk and said, I'm gonna look at the website, because I'm spending more time doing this than I am studying whatever. So I'd almost suggest that unless somebody's really wedded to the paper, that you use either the online or a CD, or, the CD though won't be updated unless you hand one out every time.
Well, what they're gonna do is they'll update the book every so often, and when they update the book, the CD and the web will also be updated.
Okay. But I would almost recommend that unless somebody really wants to.
Rachel?
Just a couple quick questions regarding the, document that will be online. You said that they'll only update the online version when they update the book, or is there a way to keep that online version updated frequently as you're changing? It just seems to me, how often then are they gonna be updating?
I can't remember the time period, it was our choice in the end, and
I think what Joan was thinking was like every 6 months.
Every 6
That way,
months.
'cause we
That
pay
may have
every
changed.
time.
I thought it was
to update.
once a year, but then maybe we moved it up to every 6 months. We can go back and check that.
I mean, it can be as often as we want, the problem is that you're gonna pay for it every time, and
How come it's not something our IT department could do in just updating, when we change our resolutions, to just go online and update that particular one? It seems to me that would be a way to keep the public informed.
well, the reason for that is that when you adopt a resolution, it's in a certain format, and then what they have to do is they will have to update the citations and the language in the books. For instance, you have a resolution here that concerns, I'll just pick one here, information technology, management administration, and it's got section 7.02 A, B, C. So when we amend from now on, we're gonna actually amend those particular parts of this. Or if we add a new section, they're gonna have to obviously add more pages or another section into this book. So the publisher will have to go back in and redo all of this, but they can do it because they have a permanent print on their, on their computer. And then when they do that, they'll send us the corrected pages, which we can substitute in, like what Jim was saying, for the paper volumes. And then they'll also send the disc, and they'll also update the web. For Mike to take that on top of that, I think would be just a lot of work. And rewrites of a book, and then also I would have I'd have concerns, I guess, as to whether it was done right or not done right, and is consistent with what the publisher did.
From my experience, I think you want to have a professional publisher do this.
There is a real science to how they do this.
I'm not saying there isn't.
No, I know, no,
I'm
I'm
just saying
just-
once a year seems too infrequent. I guess, you know, if it's twice a year, I'm wondering how much that cost is. But instead of a CD, is there a way to do USB drive? I mean, for so many people that have Macs or not having access to CD drive.
can look into
I
that.
think it would probably be less, I don't know what the cost is, but I for one would appreciate a USB drive or something electronic, instead of a hard copy. And then the online, is it also searchable, the website?
Oh, sure.
Hey, Peter?
I clearly am the exception in this room, but I'm gonna need a hard copy. I don't have the computer skills that Rachel and Jim and most of the members of this board have, so I for one, am gonna need a hard copy.
No problem, you just gotta pay for it.
No problem.
No, it was always intended that anybody could have access to this information in whatever format they wanted, and it's not a problem. If people want a hard copy, we'll give you a hard copy, and then when the supplements come out, they'll be issued to you to update. We'll have the CD versions, we'll have the online version, and we can also check to see if there's a USB version available. I mean, we're certainly, the goal is to be as accommodating as possible to everybody, and then just be realistic with the cost, that's all. And that was one of the reasons we were looking at the update service, because you could update every time you do a local law, which would be then you'd be getting, I mean, then you talk about losing track of your book, it gets crazy. Every 6 months, and that seems to stand out in my mind, kind of makes sense, because we don't adopt that many local laws, we don't adopt that many policies that will change that much. So the few that are done between that, we could easily have access to those and provide copies of those. And then when the book gets updated, obviously you'll have that.
I just wanna mention that, we're being asked today to set the public hearing, and that a lot of these questions that you folks are asking would probably be valuable to the board as a whole in that public hearing, so go ahead, Bud.
I'm just wondering if it's possible, first of all, if you have 25 books, you're gonna have 25 different books, because Jim referred to this, you know, people just don't update their books when they get the sheet. But I wonder if it'd be possible to have the digital, copy, not corrected every time it happens, but at least have an identifier, like a flag of some sort, that would say, all right, this one has been changed, and at least you know about it and you can go look it up.
Well, as far as Mr. Chairman, as far as the hard copies go, it would seem to me that I mean, you know, back in my municipal days, you had the board members would show up, the zoning board members would show up, the planning board members would show up, and they'd show up with their code books. So for those supervisors who want hard copies, they can bring them to the Board of Supervisors meetings monthly, they can bring them to the committee meetings daily, and then maybe we could find a way here administratively to say, okay, you're up for your 6-month checkup. Can we have your code book, and we can, either my office or Paul's office, we can do the inserts for the updates. So we can be responsible for that, so that the supervisors are not concerned about whether or not they have the latest versions. We could actually undertake that task.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea too, and then that way,
It'd be a good idea, it would be,
No, I'm just thinking, you know, Shelley and Terry update books and pamphlets for me on a daily basis, so we're always accustomed to, you know, out with the old, in with the good.
I hope you pay them well, it's a tough job.
I won't talk about that.
We ready to vote? Pardon me?
I wasn't sure if we made the motion, we kind of.
Well, let's check with the authority. Have we, yes, we have.
Okay.
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
And now a brief discussion from our county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm placing a request before the committee. I've discussed this with the county administrator. I've discussed it with Chairman Vansilo. I've discussed it with Chairman Garrity. I have an employee a key employee in my office who is going to go out on a temporary basis, probably for 2 months through the end of September. We're always busy. This is a busy time for us, and so after speaking to the leadership here, I hired a temporary employee. I went through the personnel office. I went through Jackie at Human Resources. We dotted all I's and crossed all T's. That employee has commenced employment as of yesterday. She has over 20 years of experience as a legal secretary, and she's here today as well. We agreed upon an hourly rate of $25 an hour, which is what she's getting paid. She has fit right in seamlessly into the office, and I'm very pleased with that. So, Mr. Chairman, I just needed to bring that to the attention of the committee, and want to thank you for talking to me about it the other day. That meant a lot to me, and this is something that we need to do and we need to get done in my office, so I would appreciate your support on this.
Yes, Peter? Are you looking for a motion?
You need
I am looking for a
Okay.
motion and
Motion
I
by
think a
Peter.
referral to personnel.
So your motion is to agree with Martin's actions and refer to personnel. And second by Bud. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Anything else come before the committee?
Well, I appreciate the fact that Martin is taking it out of his salary to pay it.
Yep. And he's also gonna buy Peter's book for him. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Evelyn, second by Edna.
Whoa.
Hey, I don't get to do
Have a
this